Arranged marriages. You have no say in marriage. All right, let's kick things off with something many of us might find super hard to believe. Arranged marriages. In a lot of African tribes, the bride doesn't have any choice when it comes to picking her husband. The families, specifically the elders, are the ones making all the decisions. For them, marriage is less about love and more about business. It's about building alliances, settling old family feuds, or boosting social status. However, the idea that the woman has no choice in such a situation oversimplifies things. While in certain communities, arranged marriages have been common, but on the flip side, many cultures do value the woman's consent, and practices vary widely depending on the region and tribe. For example, check out the Maasai tribe in Kenya and Tanzania. In this community, girls are often betrothed to their future husbands when they're still kids. Like, imagine being 10 years old and already knowing who you're going to marry. The elders decide who marries whom, and the girl's opinion? Nah, it doesn't really count. In some cases, the bride and groom won't even meet until the wedding day. Can you imagine meeting your future husband for the first time at your own wedding? Talk about awkward. This isn't just limited to the Maasai. In the Himba tribe in Namibia, arranged marriages are also common. In some tribes, like the Fulani in West Africa, the process is even more intense. The elders of both families meet and discuss the marriage for weeks, making sure every detail is agreed upon. By the time it's all settled, the bride has little or no say in the matter. Of course, not every African woman has to deal with arranged marriages these days. In more modern or urbanized areas, especially in cities like Johannesburg or Lagos, women are starting to marry for love. But in many rural areas, family-arranged marriages are still very much alive. The bride price. They buy you with cows and cash. Next up, the bride price, or as it's called in many places, the dowry, lobola. This is where things get expensive. In a lot of African tribes, the groom's family has to pay up before they can marry the bride. And we're not talking pocket change here. We're talking cows, goats, sheep, and stacks of cash. It's basically like buying the right to marry the bride. For example, in the Shona tribe in Zimbabwe, the bride price is often paid in cattle and money. Cattle are super valuable in this culture, so the more cattle a groom's family can offer, the more valuable the bride is seen to be. But here's the kicker. If the groom's family can't afford the bride price, the wedding can be delayed or even cancelled. Imagine that, waiting for your big day, and then boom, it's off because the groom didn't bring enough cows. In the Igbo tribe of Nigeria, the bride price isn't just a financial transaction, it's a whole ceremony. The groom's family has to give symbolic gifts to the bride's family, which might include money, yams, or even goats. The amount of money often depends on the bride's education and social status. If she's well educated or comes from a wealthy family, you better believe the bride price is going to be steep. And if you think this is just some ancient tradition, think again. In South Sudan's Dinka tribe, bride prices can be as high as 100 cows. Cows are everything in this culture, and a man's wealth is measured by how many cows he has. So when a Dinka man wants to get married, his family has to cough up a serious number of cows to the bride's family. Here's where things get tricky. In some cases, the bride price turns marriage into a transactional exchange. The bride is seen as bought by the groom's family, and if she's unhappy in the marriage, it's hard for her to leave because she's already been paid for. It's a harsh reality, but it's the way things work in many traditional communities. Bride boot camp training to be a perfect wife. Now let's talk about bride boot camp. And yes, it's as intense as it sounds. Once a bride is chosen and the bride price is paid, it's time for her to train for married life. In many African tribes, brides-to-be go through a rigorous training process to make sure they know how to be the perfect wife. And let me tell you, it's no joke. In Uganda's Baganda tribe, for example, a bride might be sent to live with her aunt or another female elder before her wedding. There, she's taught how to cook traditional meals, how to behave in front of her husband, and how to be a good wife. This training isn't just about cooking and cleaning, though. It's also about how to handle the bedroom. Yep, she's given lessons on how to please her husband. If she doesn't perform her duties well, she could be publicly humiliated. Talk about pressure. But it's not just about household duties. In some tribes, like the Kikuyu of Kenya, brides are also taught how to respect and serve the elders in their husband's family. And here's where it gets even more challenging. If there are a lot of kids in the family, like 10 of them, the bride is responsible for bathing all of them. It's a big job, and it's all part of proving herself to her new family. As she fulfills these responsibilities, she starts to earn respect. Eventually, she might even get an allowance as a reward. This means that her meals, especially breakfast, start getting better over time. It's a way of showing that she's becoming a valued member of the household. This means boiling water for baths, serving food, and making sure the elders are comfortable before anyone else. If the bride can't handle all these responsibilities, she's seen as a failure. Side note, did you know? In many African cultures, when a bride gets married, she is expected to have 3 essential types of clothing. Daily home wear, for everyday activities around the house. It's typically comfortable and practical, allowing the bride to perform her household duties with ease. Going out outfit, for social occasions, ceremonies, or community events. It's usually more formal and often beautifully adorned, reflecting the bride's cultural heritage and family pride. Sleeping outfit. This set is meant for rest and relaxation. It tends to be simple and comfortable. These clothing types play an important role in the bride's new life, helping her navigate different aspects of her role within the family and community. Hardcore household duties. The bride does everything. Makoti is a term used in several southern African cultures, including Zulu and Xhosa, to refer to a bride or newlywed woman. The term often carries cultural significance, representing not just a bride, but also the responsibilities and expectations placed on her as she joins her husband's family. Once the wedding's over, the real grind begins. For example, in rural areas of West Africa, like among the Fulani tribe, brides are expected to walk miles to fetch water for the household. If she doesn't bring back enough water or firewood, it's seen as a sign of laziness, and that's a major no-no. In some cases, the bride's performance during this test period can determine how much respect she gets in her new family. And then there's the cooking. In many African cultures, the bride is responsible for cooking for the entire extended family. In the Himba tribe of Namibia, for example, the bride has to prove she can cook traditional meals using local ingredients, often in huge quantities. It's not just about making a meal, it's about showing that she can provide for the family. But here's the kicker. In some tribes, the bride isn't even allowed to eat the best parts of the meal she just cooked. In South Africa's Xhosa tribe, the bride has to serve the main course to the men and elders in the family while she gets whatever's left over. For example, while she might get to enjoy some beans, the juicy chicken breast, or drumsticks. Those are usually off limits. Sometimes she might be allowed to eat chicken liver, but generally, the goal is to show her dedication by being selfless. Virginity tests, polygamy, and controversial customs. And finally, let's get into some of the most controversial marriage customs. In many African tribes, like in Zulu and Xhosa cultures, virginity is a huge deal. Before the wedding, brides are often subjected to virginity tests, typically carried out by female elders, who check to see if the bride is still pure. If she fails the test, it can bring massive shame to her family, and in some cases, the wedding is cancelled. Then there's polygamy. In some African tribes, it's totally normal for a man to have multiple wives. This is common in places like the Maasai tribe in Kenya, where a man might have several wives, each living in a separate house. The first wife is usually seen as the senior wife, while the others are ranked below her. But polygamy can cause all sorts of drama, including jealousy and competition. And then there's the controversial practice of female circumcision, also known as female genital mutilation, FGM. In some African tribes, like the Somali and Pokot of Kenya, girls are required to undergo FGM as part of their preparation for marriage. The practice is deeply rooted in tradition, but it has been widely condemned by human rights groups because of the physical and emotional trauma it causes. In some cases, FGM is seen as a way to control women's sexuality and ensure they remain pure for their husbands. It's a brutal and painful process that can lead to lifelong health issues, but in certain communities, it's still considered a rite of passage. Conclusion. And that's it. As you can see, marriage for African brides is no walk in the park. From arranged marriages and bride prices to hardcore household duties and controversial customs, these traditions are intense. While some of these practices may seem shocking from a modern perspective, they're deeply rooted in the cultures of these tribes and have been passed down for generations. So what do you guys think? Could you handle all the pressure that comes with being a bride in some of these African tribes? Let me know in the comments. And as always, don't forget to smash that like button and subscribe to the channel for more jaw-dropping stories from around the world.